Hi, beautiful people. Welcome to the Fort Salem Library, where we read you your fanfiction. So sit down or don't, relax or don't, and enjoy these stories in a way you have not before. We at Fort Salem Library do not own Motherland Fort Salem or any of the related characters. The Motherland Fort Salem series is created by Elliot Lawrence and owned by Freeform. This story is a work of fanfiction and is meant for entertainment only. We are not making any profit from these stories. All rights of the original Motherland Fort Salem story belong to Freeform. We also do not own Until Morning or any of its original characters and storylines. We did, however, get permission from the author to read their story. This story was created and written by JordanUnbroken, and you can find the link on our show notes. This story is being read to you by me, Britt. Until Morning, Chapter 7. She had to go. Now. Scylla told her surgical team she had food poisoning. Quickly changing out of her scrubs and shoving her lab coat in her locker, she left to go home. She sat in the parking garage for a long while before she started her car. Rather than driving to her apartment, she drove to the beach. The water rolled over itself in choppy waves, and the sky brought gray clouds overhead. Scylla pulled off her shoes and buried her toes into the cold sand. She stared at the waves and thought of her parents. The last time she saw them, they were headed out of town for a weekend away, just the two of them. They left her with the neighbors, and it was supposed to be a fun couple of nights with her friends, watching movies and staying up all night. Her father had kissed her cheek and jokingly told her to stay out of trouble. Her mother had wrapped her in a tight embrace and assured her that they'd be back that Sunday evening. They told her they loved her, and she responded in kind. Their life hadn't been perfect, but she never doubted her parents' devotion to her or each other. Scylla let tears fall into the sand. Rain began to fall as she made her way back to the car. Scylla came home to her quiet apartment and pulled off her rain-sodden jacket. Unsure of what to do with herself, she pulled out what few photos she had of her parents, and she sat at the kitchen counter. She thought about what Riel's revelation meant. A young woman made an awful mistake. Her mother, who should have been more responsible in the first place, was still to blame. Although, could the accident have been avoided if Riel's mother had driven? Even if she hadn't had a few drinks in her system? Hard to say. Scylla looked out her window at the storm outside. Thoughts of Willa Color entered Scylla's mind. Willa and Riel ran away from the scene, even though the roads were slick and it was clearly an accident. Scylla assumed that Willa didn't want her daughter to face blame for two people's deaths. Accidents happen, and maybe the police would have let her walk away. But the thought of sweet Riel going through a trial for vehicle manslaughter made her own stomach churn. If she were a mother, would she have done the same? Even though the woman made a poor decision that day by choosing to drink herself incapable and having her teenage daughter shoulder the burden of making sure they arrive home safe that evening, she chose to protect her daughter from any further harm. Scylla saw the grief and the repentant look in Riel's eyes as she told her the truth. Riel still carried a burden that was not hers to bear. Looking back at their conversation, it seemed both of them knew who the other was, but was afraid to say anything. Scylla sighed. I can't leave things like this. She spoke out loud to an empty room. Scylla had already left work for being sick, and if she went back now, she would probably be thrown on emergency surgeries all night. Scylla needed to see Riel. She would leave early in the morning and stop by her room before rounds. With nowhere to go for the evening, she took the tub of coffee ice cream out of the freezer and flipped on Netflix. Time to prepare her apology. Scylla had set her alarm for earlier than usual, but still woke up before it went off. She showered, got dressed, and did her hair, wearing it down with slight curls coming to her shoulders. After breaking down the last time they saw each other, she wanted to look like she actually had herself together. The locker room was empty when Scylla arrived, and she pulled on her scrubs and lab coat. When she reached into the pocket to put her stethoscope around her neck, she found something else. Rael's family photo that she had folded into her pocket. Rael had handed her the photo, but hadn't dared to look at it. A small Rael with a big toothy smile sat between two happy adults, who she had only ever seen as tired, broken people. She ran her fingers over Rael's face. An apology was definitely in order. Scylla rode the elevator and walked down the hallway to Rael's room. She blew out a breath before knocking. No answer. She knocked again and then cracked the door open. Scylla assumed that maybe she just arrived too early and Rael was still sleeping, but no. There was no Rael, and her pile of snacks and crossword puzzle books were gone. Only a freshly made bed and unused dark monitors. Scylla ran to the nurse's station. "Anacostia, where's Rael?" she asked. "Scylla, she's gone," Anacostia spoke. Please find the fanfiction you just listened to on Archive of Our Own, and leave the author some love. Without them, this wouldn't be possible, and we want to thank them from the bottoms of our hearts for creating these amazing stories and keeping the show alive.